Hey, it is Xzandro Gamer, and today we're going to be talking about some quality of life upgrades that I personally would love to see. I think most of these are going to be non-controversial. There's going to be a couple of ideas I'm going to suggest that some people may agree or not agree with. But for the most part, a lot of these are ideas I think a lot of the community wants. Now this video will be broken down into a few different parts. We're going to talk first about some changes we'd like to see with runes and artifacts and the drops and interface overall. Then we're going to be looking at like monster balancing and rewards, guild arena and general PvP, and then just some general quality of life ideas. First and foremost, I think number one, this should be non-controversial. Every person in the community wants this. Come to us if you're watching this video, please, above and beyond everything else. Auto power-ups. We don't want to watch our runes fail over and over. I have nightmares about the sound of runes failing. It's pretty straightforward. The fix for this is really simple. Give us a slider that allows us to allocate a certain amount of mana to the enchant. So let's say I commit 1 million mana, and then in the background just enchant it using the same RNG, the same everything, nothing else changes or benefits us, and either I plus 15 the rune and you tell me how much it costs, or I plus 12 or whatever number I set it to, or I don't get that far and you just say you ran out of mana and you got this far and you show me the new rune. Auto farm is amazing. We love it, and we love the fact that we can enchant runes while we're auto farming, but there's still really no reason that we should have to wait 10, 15, 20 minutes to power up a single rune. It just is very frustrating. Okay, so next up we have Ultra Craft. This one's pretty straightforward. Right now we have Craft Low, Medium, High. Let's add in Craft Ultra. It should cost about 3 times as much as crafting does right now. Guarantees a 6-star rune drop, rare or above. All it does is basically emulate the B12s and then give us a slightly higher craft material rate, drop rate on the B11s, and then a slightly higher again drop rate on the B12s. So basically if you're farming B12s and getting auto 6-star drops, then when you're crafting, you're also getting 6-star runes. After that, this one, I think most people will agree with this one, but for legend grinds, the min roll should be the same as a hero max roll. So if you are talking about like an HP grind, instead of it being a 5 to 10 range, it should be a 7 to 10 range. There's nothing that hurts more than farming for an hour, getting a legend grind, and then, well, there's actually lots of things that hurt more, but this is one of the things that hurts. You farm for an hour, you get your legend grind, and then you try and regrind something, and it comes in lower than the hero was originally. Okay, next, this is an idea from somebody in Discord, Kratz. He's also a stream regular and a channel member. He suggested, and I very much agree with this, that TOA normal should drop more summoning stones, but basically the way it should work is that you get progressively more stones for each level. So for example, you get 2 stones per level 1 to 10, 3 stones per level 11 to 20, or 11 to 30, and so on and so forth. And then TOA hard, you would start it a little bit higher. Use the same pattern with progressively more stones, but maybe started at 4 stones per level on level 1, going to 5 stones on level 21, and so on and so forth. Okay, next up, 2 just little quality of life features. In the Rune Manager, I would love to be able to sort my runes by without a stat. So if I'm looking for runes that don't have speed or don't have crit rate or resistance or whatever, that should be an option. Right now we can sort by runes that do have it, but we can't sort by runes that don't. And then along those lines, when we sort with runes that do have it, I would also like to see the runes that don't have it just show up last as +0s. That could be a configurable option like show or don't show, or it could just be by default, but it would be really nice if those runes showed up. Okay, next thing I would like to see is effective HP displayed in the game. This is something, a lot of dungeons we talk about, you need a certain amount of effective HP to survive. Like I recommend 85k effective HP for Necro B12, which we have farming in the background right now, which for those of you who don't know, effective HP is basically the total amount of damage you can take. It's the combination of HP and defense together. So I would love to have that stat just displayed on our monster profile. I also think it would be cool if we could see our stats with and without towers. This maybe is just something like for the content creators, because we always get so many questions about, do I need towers, do I not need towers? And realistically, you never need towers. Towers just lower the rune requirements, but at the same time, if you're early game and you have no towers, you probably don't have those higher runes either. Okay, and then last in this runes and artifacts and drops section, I would love to see dimensional hole energy be divided into two. One set of dimensional hole energy is used to farm 2A monsters. One set of dimensional hole energy is used to farm runes. So we're not forced to choose between the two. Now, honestly, this was a suggestion given to me, but it was given to me a long time ago, so I don't remember by who. If you did suggest this to me, shout out to you because I do love the idea. So this is an idea just to kind of help newer players catch up a little bit, but obviously it benefits older players as well, I'm not going to lie, because we'd be able to farm out skill up. So it benefits everybody, but I think it benefits the newer players a little bit more because it allows them to try and catch up a little bit more quickly. Okay, next up, we've got some monster balancing and reward suggestions. Now, the first one that I didn't put on this list, something I've talked about with people a lot, though, is I would love to see a balance patch come every 2 months, and I'd probably like to see the balance patch address a few more monsters, but mostly the additional monsters would be like 3 stars and 2 stars, trying to make them more meta, not just the stuff that affects RTA. Now, in addition to that, number one, anybody who's ever watched one of my streams, watched one of my channel, whatever, you know this is going to be number one for me. Hathor needs to have the strip removed from her skill 2. Hathor is the most broken monster in the game. The numbers bear it out. She was picked in like 54% of RTA matches last season, and obviously not everybody has her, so she would have been picked in more if everybody did. For balance purposes, I really think the strip needs to be removed from her skill 2. That would still make her a triple S monster. It would just make her slightly more balanced. There you go. So second thing, something I think everybody will agree with, I would love to see homunculus skill ups be farmable, and then much like when they reduce the number of skill ups that 2As took, if you did double your homunculi, you get the Devilmon refunded. Obviously, this is going to benefit me. Since I have both of mine skilled up, it'll benefit a lot of players, but again, this is also something that's going to help new players catch up. The Devilmon crunch is real. It takes forever to get Devilmon. So if you're a new player coming into the game, being able to skill up a homunculus through farming, obviously you can't do it on day one because you need the dungeon teams, but if you're, in early mid-game, being able to save those 15, 20 devils for monsters that are mostly used in PvE is a big, big deal. So I'd really like to see homunculus skill ups be farmable. Another balancing idea that I would like to see is for Antares to gain attack bar whenever the enemy gains attack bar. So this would allow him to remain as a Diana counter, but it would reduce the amount of pure RNG. So it's basically something very similar to like what Tian Lang does, or actually, excuse me, it's something very similar to what Amduat does, but we would just give him a lower increase. Since Amduat's an LD4, maybe you give Antares like 10 or 15% of attack bar whenever the enemy gains attack bar, or maybe you just give him a percentage of the enemy's attack bar gain. So that would still make him a Diana counter. So for example, right now Amduat gets 25% at the end of every turn. Let's say Antares just gains 10% of the attack bar gained by the enemy monster. So when Diana transforms, that's 100% attack bar, so you're giving Antares 10%. If she transforms back, he gets another 10%, and so on. I don't know if those numbers are exact. The developers, this is something that the developers should work on in a balance patch, but I would just like to see him be less RNG and something that's a little bit more predictable. Another idea someone suggested to me is to add a cooldown on his passive so you don't have Antares going like 6, 7, 8 times in 10 turns. That would be another way to reduce the RNG, although for me, I think that the attack bar gain would probably deal with it, and then you don't need to change the passive. Okay, next up, I would like to see a separate class of Nat 4 Devilmon, and I would like to see Nat 4 Devilmon given every time Nat 5 are. So in every place in the game right now that you get a Devilmon, you also get a Nat 4 specific Devilmon. This is almost exclusively for earlier game players. Obviously, a lot of mid-game players who have been playing for years will benefit for it. Or benefit from it, but it's going to benefit early and mid-game players dramatically more than late-game players, which is something I really like. It's another way to help newer players catch up. And what we want to do is just not impact the amount of 5-star Devilmon available, but just give us those extra 4-star Devilmon as well. Along those lines, defeating the Predator should give you 1 4-star and 1 5-star Devilmon. I mean, it's a once-a-month thing. Now, this is a shout-out to a channel member and regular on stream, Mr. Astroglider, who suggested this, but I really, really like this idea. Again, it's a once a month thing. You're giving us one extra devil a month, but you're also doing that one extra 4-star devil. Okay, next up, Siege Victory Chests. I know they were recently buffed. I'm not super impressed by the buff. What I would like to see is every single chest keeps a minimum of 1 reward at the rank of your guild. So every single chest, if you're in an S rank guild, then every single chest will have at least 1 S-ranked reward. They can have more than that, obviously, that's the RNG factor, but you get a minimum of 1. S-rank rewards for me would be something like a mystical scroll or an elemental scroll, somewhere around there. Or maybe even just triple S is like 3 mystical scrolls, double S is 2 mystical scrolls, single S is 1 mystical scroll, so that the G3 guilds aren't like over benefiting from this, but that we all generally get better rewards. Then you just have that separate tier of like jackpot stuff. That's the legendary scroll, the Devilmon, and those are just RNG for everybody. But it'd be nice if we got something a little bit more, a little bit better and more consistent out of Siege rewards. Now, the last thing on this list is one that half of you are going to hate me for. That's why I have it last. But I do have to throw this out. I've been talking about this on and off for a long time. I personally want to see it. I think it's a 50-50 thing. Half of you will hate it. I get that. But what I want to see is violent procs change to where they don't reduce cooldowns or activate passives. So, a couple of reasons for this. First and foremost, some of the most violent... Okay, think about when we have trouble with violent procs, like when we get screwed by violent procs, right? It often has more to do with the timing of the proc than it does with the fact that the enemy procced, or it has to do with which monster procced as opposed to the fact that the enemy procced. So if a Lauren procs and then retargets, she controls your entire team. If Vertihile procs, he gives his entire team an extra turn effectively. Those are disproportionately powerful procs to when, let's say, Ganymede procs against the entire enemy team that's already in immunity and he can't do anything. So, if you want to balance that out, you make it so that you don't activate your passive on a proc, and then Lauren's not getting her passive, Vertihile's not getting his passive, and then Com2uS has always said that the reason for Violent is to balance out control speed meta. So, obviously, if your team is in a loop of being controlled, the only way you're getting out of this is if you proc out. Makes perfect sense to me. It's required for game balance. The problem is that when you put control monsters into Violent and then they cycle into even more control. So if Violent procs did not reduce their cooldowns, then they wouldn't be cycling into more control. If Violent procs did not reduce, for example, a Wusa's cooldown, then there would be openings for us to get through the immunity, which would then require you to have double immunity. So, I mean, if you look at immunity buffers, there's no immunity buffer in the game that can keep up continuous immunity. This presumably is by design so that there is an opening in there. So for me, this is something I would very much love to see, and it would also fix the issues of like Diana going into an infinite turn cycle. Would there be some additional balancing required afterwards? Yeah, because this could also harm some monsters. They may need a slight buff. It's not like an immediate perfect one-size-fits-all, but to me, it's a huge step forward on the path of fixing it. So I would love to see this tested. Maybe we just test it out in like Special League, see how it goes, and then if it works well, bring it out into the rest of the game. And if it doesn't work well, then we did our little pilot test. So that's my pitch on how we could better balance Violent. Okay, so next up we have some proposed changes for Guild, Arena, and PvP. Now the first one, this should be non-controversial. It's something I would so much really like to see, which is that Guild War and Siege timers can send push notifications when there's only an hour left. This should be a configurable option. Obviously, it would just be in your notifications tab. Do you want to be notified when there's an hour left in Guild War or Siege? Okay, next up. This one's a little bit bigger, but it's not at the same time. I would like to see Special League be available year-round, probably in 1-month rotations, and it would just run concurrent to RTA. There's no need for it necessarily to run outside of RTA. When RTA is on cooldown between seasons, that wouldn't be a big deal because Special League would just be running anyway, but it'd be nice if we just had a 1-month Special League starting on the 1st of every month, ending at the end of the month. Special League doesn't really give any game-changing prizes. It's all aesthetics, it's skins, so there's no reason that that it shouldn't run year round. And then I would like to see some additional types of Special League added in. So if we're getting to do a Special League every month, that lets us be creative. So one example that was suggested by So Dies a Lot, also a Discord member and a channeled member, is he suggested we could have a Special League where passives don't count, or where we have global passives, so every monster gets the same thing. Some other possibilities that we've talked about, or that kind of like we pitched around in Discord, would be one where you must pick one each of support, attack, HP, and defense. And then there would be no bans. It's a 4-monster pick, right? Support, attack, HP, and defense. There's a lot of different things we could do with Special League that would be really cool. We could do some of the stuff like in TOA Hell right now. So Come To Us just brought out these really cool mechanics, like everybody starts with immunity, or there is no immunity, no beneficial effects. All that stuff that like was just put in TOA Hell, that could go into different Special Leagues as well. So I think Special League is a tremendous meta that's a lot of fun for people. It's less frustrating, hopefully, than RTA. And it would be great. I mean, it's already coded in the game. It would be great if it were just made more available to us. Okay, last thing. And this was also suggested by Dies a Lot, but I guess this was based on a Jubagel video, so I happened to miss that one. But I guess a while back, Jubagel suggested that we do like a rent a Nat 5 thing, where all players get the use of a rotating Nat 5 every week, including LDs. And then as with the homunculus, your rented Nat 5 cannot be used in RTA or PvP. It's just a chance for players to experience those monsters they don't have. This sounds like a lot of fun to me. I know, especially like there's so many LDs that I've never gotten to use, or that I've gotten to use once, and I know they're a ton of fun. Shazam comes to mind because I get to use perk Shazam from time to time, and he's like one of the most fun monsters in the game to me. I know Shazam, I know for you guys here in Shazam right now that sounds weird. But it's true. He's a lot of fun, and obviously I don't have him, so the only time I get to use him is once every couple of weeks if I do Perks Guild War on stream or something like that. A lot of other people are not as fortunate as I am, have less access to use other people's monsters, so I love this idea, the Rent a Nat 5 idea, and then that's also something that could tie back into Special League. Like, at the start of Special League, everybody gets to pick 30 monsters. That's this month's Special League. Everybody picks 30 monsters, but it's not just your own 30. You picked 30 monsters, period, and then maybe there's some limitations, like you can have 1 LD5, you can have 9 Nat 5s, you can have 10 Nat 4s, you can have 10 3-stars, including 2 As. You know, that some sort of structure like that. It would be a lot of fun because we'd have to plan out at the start what do we want, and then we get to use whatever we want and just really like build out any team you want. So these two ideas, very interchangeable, and I think they would be a lot of fun. Okay, and then last up, we've got just our straightforward quality of life improvements. Now, Come To Us has been really just kicking butt lately as far as bringing in a lot of things that a lot of us have wanted for a while. So these are some of the additional things I'd like to see. Some of them are big, some of them are small. The first one is really big, but it's something I've wanted more than any other QOL improvement ever, I think, which is a Gems and Grinds manager. We have a great Rune manager. The Rune manager is awesome. Maybe it could use a few tweaks, but it is truly awesome. Love to see the exact same thing for Gems and Grinds. Give us an easier way to clean them up, to see what we have, and so forth. That's obviously a much bigger coding project, but it's something that would be really, really useful. Now, smaller things, smaller coding projects, but also really useful. I would love to see us have the ability to search by name for monsters. Especially if you've been playing the game for a while and you have a big monster box. Any like probably late mid-game player and beyond is going to relate to this. There are times where you're looking and you go past your monster like 50 times and you just spend like 10 minutes looking for the monster. You can't find it. And once you've missed it the first time, you're never going to see it again. And it gets even worse in RTA, where you're just going to wind up running out of time and not being able to pick it because you can't find it. So a lot of that would be solved if we could just simply, hit a search magnifying glass, type in a couple of letters, and it pops up the list of the monsters in the search. Should be pretty easy to code. Okay, next thing I would love to see for auto farming, which we've got going in the background, I'd love to see a configurable option. The default would be off, but it's just something that we can choose, where the battle will continue after a failed run. For Dimensional Hole, I would also like to see a configurable option where you can revive, so you don't lose your Dimensional Hole energy. Dimensional Hole energy is so rare that I feel like I can't actually auto farm because I'm worried about, if I fail. My teams don't fail all that often, but even so, one fail is enough that it makes me not want to auto farm. So those are a couple of changes I'd like to see with auto farm. One other change I would like to see is for special dungeons to be added in. And then the change that we all want to see, obviously, is some way to do R5, because I think everybody I've spoken to is in the same boat. Now that auto farm is out and it's so easy, we're all neglecting our rating. And maybe this is just a personal thing. Like, we should, you know, we used to farm it manually, so we're just being lazy, but we're getting spoiled too. So I would love to see some way for R5 to be incorporated into auto farm. Okay, next up, I would love to see the option for high essence to be traded down to mid essence, even if we paid a penalty. Now, along those lines, I would love to see the Rift crystals, the pure magic crystals, be sellable. Anybody who's been around for a while probably has the max. We can't use them on anything, so we're just not getting any more of them. It'd be nice if we could sell those for mana. Probably all Rift crystals and all materials should be sellable, but at least these, which can't be used for anything else, or at least give them some other use. Next up, I would love to see monsters be able to be transmogrified while they're in storage. It's kind of a hassle to be able to take them out and put them back in. I know it's a small thing, but we're talking about quality of life, right? So part of that is it's the transmogrification items is what I'm talking about. So like putting wings on a monster, right? When I'm doing the wings, I want to see how it looks on each of a bunch of different monsters, so I have to clear a bunch of stuff out of storage. If you have a big monster storage, again, this may be more of a late game quality of life thing, but if you have a big monster storage, it means moving monsters in and out a lot. It turns into a lot longer and more inconvenient of a process than it needs to be. I'd love to be able to do Predator over and over just for fun. Test mode, no prizes at all, no cost at all, just test mode, right? So let's say it's a test mode that only activates after you've beaten the Predator. So that way we still have to spend our energy to beat him, but once we've beaten him, we can continue to do it just to try different monster comps and help out people. And obviously for content creators, it's going to benefit us there as well, but really it's this great new content, and if you beat him quickly, then it's like you do 2 or 3, 4 runs once a month, and then that's it. I would love to see the dungeon rank show up on profile. Just a flex thing here, right? But I think that's also a great way to motivate people. So we see their times. It would just be really simple where it says 38 seconds. Right next to that, it would say rank 296 or rank 2960 or whatever. It's just a way to kind of motivate people. If you're looking for, the flex on your profile, when you see your rank, you're always encouraged to try and push it up. I would love to see a way to differentiate duplicate monsters. Now, this is actually an idea. Shout out to Papa Panda, Discord member, channel member, regular on stream. So he suggested this one. I love this idea. If you've built 2 or more of the same monster, so a lot of us, for example, have 2 Laurens. You have one for BJR5 and one regular one. Just put a little number 1 in the bottom left-hand corner, number 2 in the bottom left-hand corner, number 3 in the bottom left-hand corner, and so on. And that way you can know which monster has which rune set. It would be really nice if we were able to update the screen loading tips for early game players. So we still have a lot of new players. Even after 6 years, we still have a lot of new players starting the game, but a lot of those screen loading tips were written 5, 6 years ago or 4 years ago, and they're no longer relevant. So I would love to see those updated. I believe this was also Papa Panda's suggestion. I forgot to write down who gave it to me, but shout out for the suggestion for this one. And then another, the last 2 right here, they're also suggestions I got out of Discord. Again, I apologize, guys. I forgot to write down who gave me these ideas, and I told everybody they'd get a shout out in the video, so that is my bad. I apologize. But the first one, this is really cool for me. In auto farm, save the average times in a longer record history, so you could see like maybe your last 10 or 20 batches of 10 or 20, so you could really get a feel for how your team's doing, but so also you could compare, like let's say you change your team and you want to compare it over 100 or 200 runs, which is more statistically significant. It'd be awesome to be able to see all of those runs going back. I mean, we've got the data loading up. It's awesome data loading when you finish your 10 runs. Let's just be able to see that history of runs. And then the last one is in RTA, the loser of the match should get 1 medal. So the winner gets 4 or 5 based on their rank. Loser should get 1 just for participating. Again, this is just something to motivate people to play and to make it a little bit less frustrating when you're spending your wings, so at least you get that medal. Now, I would temper this with saying if you use auto at any point in the match, and you lose, you don't get the medal, because I don't want to see us encouraging people to go on auto and RTA more. It should be the opposite. We should be encouraging them to play RTA more. So if you lose and you use auto, you don't get the medal, and I'll even go the other direction and say if you use auto and you win, you get one less medal. So let's make it less valuable for people who are using auto and RTA, but make it more valuable for people who are actually making the effort. And so that's it, guys. This is a long video. It was a big list. I've actually been compiling this for quite a while. As I said, a reminder, I'm gonna put a full Reddit post with all of these ideas given out in a little bit more detail. So that the link to the Reddit post will be updated in the description. The Reddit post will happen on the day this video drops, but probably not before. But let me know what you think. Did I miss anything? Is there anything that needs to be added, changed, whatever? Put that in the comments down below. So as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. This one in particular, I've been working on this one for weeks. I put a fair amount of time putting this list together. So, you know, if you're not subscribed yet, you enjoyed the video, please smash that subscribe button, hit the like button. And then once again, I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you're still with me to this point, then that means that you probably liked the video, found it entertaining, or even better, both. So please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below, because those things help the channel grow, and more importantly, they show me that the video is useful, and that's the whole reason I do this in the first place.